So throughout your journey, can you tell us about any one contribution that you've made to Ogilvy? There will definitely be many, but like the one that you spoke about, the ad, uh, probably no matter how big or small it is, but it is really close to your heart.
Yeah, sure. And I'm not going to talk about advertising, right? Because
Okay.
if you ask me for one contribution I've made to Ogilvy that I will remember and cherish for the rest of my life, across these 16 years, it is not a piece of advertising. It's not a campaign. It's culture, right? What I think the impact that I've made the most is on making people feel happier in the company they are, making people happier about where they work, who they work with, how they work. Um, uh, I think that to my mind is the single most important job I could have done, um, either as the CEO or as a business head with my team, or as a business unit head handling the digital side of the business. Everywhere I've gone, I've tried to make people happier in the work that they do, and that results in better work, right?
Yeah.
More importantly, it results in happier people in the company.
Right.
That's to me that's the most important thing. If there's one thing I will
Interesting.
remember, it's that.
Amazing, sir. So, sir, like you're talking about Ogilvy and the culture. So, sir, we both were very curious to know what a day in the life of a CEO of an advertising agency looks like.
When you're an account executive, or let me make this in the first person. When I was an account executive, I was deeply involved in every single thing that went out on a brand, right? Because it was my job to make sure it went out on time, to check it, to make sure it was error free. So I was deeply involved, right? I would read every word of the copy, make sure there were no double spaces, no typos, no spelling errors. Make sure the material was fine, make sure it was delivered on time, make sure my project Excel sheets were running on schedule. Wherever there were gaps, I was just pushing people to get stuff done. So it's very operational, right? But it's very operational and linked to the brand and to deliverables on the brand. I'll fast forward a few years later when I became an account director, which is a designation you get to 6, 7 years down the line in the advertising business. Um, the bulk of my job was supervising stuff, right, and starting to build client relationships. So I was spending more time talking to clients, understanding what they need, spending a lot of time in market talking to consumers, trying to get into the heart of the brand, contributing a little to strategy, leaving the operational side to the account executives, but still knowing what's happening, being able to control it and supervise it. Right? Um, when I grew from there to, let's say, client servicing director, managing supervisor, vice president, because all those designations mean the same thing, right? um, my focus there was on strategy, and on client relationships, right? On making sure the client felt they had somebody they could trust, somebody who was leading their business, somebody who knew where they wanted to take the brand in the year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, right? And that requires a bigger picture. It required me to have a point of view on what consumers felt, where they were likely to move, how the brand was positioned, where we wanted to move the brand, what the work should look like, what the brand world should look like, what the consumer experience of the brand should be like, right? I still needed to make sure my account directors and my AEs were on track, projects moving on schedule, but that was more of a supervisory role. The bulk of it was the relationship with client, making sure they had the best of the company, right? The best resources, the best people, the best thinking, making sure they felt like they had a strong partner, and really building that relationship and the brand over time, right? And influencing the work, right? At that stage, when you're in the CSD, management supervisor, VP, even the account director role, you're also focused on improving the quality of the work. You want the work to be better and better and better. So you're deeply involved in every script presentation, in the PPMs, in the shoots, right? In the client presentations, making sure everything is perfect, right? The orchestration works like a great team performing well. When you get to an office head role, which is something I did for a while, or a business head role where you're heading, like I was heading the digital team, which is 150 people, servicing a bunch of clients across the country. At that time, you start focusing on the P&L, right? Saying, are we profitable? Are we making enough? Are we growing fast enough? First of all, because growth drives everything. If you have enough revenue growth, you're happy down the line. You're able to, your margins improve. You're able to support your people with increments. All of that. Growth is the engine that drives all of that. So the focus is on new business. It's on pitching, getting new clients in, identifying the clients you want to work with, right? And making that something that you do intentionally, saying which are the 10 clients I want to work with. How do I bring those 10 clients into the company? How do I make sure each client is operating profitably? And how do I make sure we're growing? Hiring the best people, right? At that level, your focus is on talent spotting and bringing them in and keeping them in the company. Then putting the best people on the best businesses, finding the right match. Right? You have an extremely talented person, but you want to make sure he or she is aligned to the business that will best leverage the talent he or she has. And it's a lot of that. And you're still involved in key client relationships because they keep coming to you when there's an escalation, mainly, right? When you're an office head or a business head saying, hey, I'm struggling, this team is not working, or this brand is not working, or this production house is an issue, or something is delayed, and you manage those escalations as well, right? When you get to the CEO position, you are most far removed from the work. And that's something everybody needs to understand and come to terms with, right? When you get to this position, you have to trust other people to do the work. I have to trust my office heads, the vice presidents, the senior vice presidents, the ECDs, the GCDs, the CCOs to do fabulous work, right? If I start interfering in everybody's work and saying, hey, I have a point of view on this film and that script and this client, I'm not letting them do their jobs, right? I need to let them grow into their jobs, right? So the question is, what do you do as a CEO then? And here's the answer, right? In any average week, the bulk of my time goes in human resource issues, which is things people are struggling with in the company, and trying to iron out pathways, clear pathways, break down barriers, manage conflict within the company and with clients, right? So the kind of escalation that comes to you as the CEO, when you're the CEO, is when the shit really hits the fan, right? So it's the most complex client escalations, the most complex people escalations, right? So you're not looking at the work, but you're talking to a client who is extremely upset about something, right? Either their work hasn't been delivered, or their people have quit, or their business is tanking, or there's something happening in your agency which they're extremely unhappy about, and it's about solving those. The shit has already hit the fan. Step in and solve it. Something anybody else couldn't solve, right? You need to step in and solve those. So it is the dirtiest, the most complex issues that you will get dragged into from a client perspective. The dirtiest, the most complex issues that you will get dragged into from a people and talent perspective, right? That's the day-to-day job. Then there are finance issues, right? Which is, we need to hire 20 people. The region is not approving the hires. Worldwide is not approving the hires because there are some issues with your financial numbers. Cleaning that up, fighting the system to get what you need, and it's a lot of firefighting on a day-to-day basis. Right? But what the job is really about, and that it's not about an average day, but what you make time for in the year. Right? What the job is about charting a path for the organization. Not for a company, not for a brand, as in not for a client brand, not for a client's company, but for your own company. It's you as the brand, right? How do I take Ogilvy and chart a path for Ogilvy? Right? What's the brand point of view for Ogilvy? How do we want clients to see it in market? What are the initiatives we need to take so clients actually see us that way, right? And it's not just imagery, but it's actual vision and operations as well, right? Which are the companies we want to acquire? Why do we want to acquire them? When we acquire them, how do we assimilate them into the company? Right? What are the new services we need to launch? How will we launch those services? How will it work financially? What's the return for those services in a 6-month period, in a 1-year period, in an 18-month period, right? What's the business case you can make for them? Who are the key people to put in the best roles, right? It's a critical part of the job. You have a bunch of leaders. I'd say today I have 20, 25 leaders across the company who are all ready to take senior management role or in senior management roles of different kinds, right? What do I do with their careers? Where do they move next, right? Who's best positioned to lead something in an office or to lead a specific business or a capability, or who's best positioned to launch something new, mentor it and take it through, right? Who's best positioned to take an acquisition and help it integrate into the company? It's those questions, it's moving those pieces around while you're managing all the shit and the escalations, right? And really trying to get to a point where at the end of the year you look back and say the company is moved. It's moved forward in a certain direction, and that direction is the direction which you wanted to take it. That's the job.